I've actually seen the rocket lands, explodes when I actually saw it and felt it. Then I thought, if I can die at any moment, I'd rather start as soon as possible to do all the things I wanted. That was the pivotal moment when I actually stopped being afraid of what people think. It's never 100% honest. You're supposed to lie sometimes. Two trench lines on opposite sides, two groups of people, and then they all get shelled and they die from things they didn't even see. I probably do have a eating disorder. I can go through 5,000 calories and feel fine. One of the biggest reasons I started this body transformation, because I want my child to get an example from me. Like, I don't want your podcast to have any problems, but
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Extrospective podcast with your host, Zach Villeneuve-Snell. Today, I'm joined by Andrew Artekha, who is a Ukrainian fitness influencer and business owner. In this conversation, we discuss how he went from 0 to 500,000 followers on Instagram in just 3 months, how he lost 30 kilos in that same 3 months, documenting every single day his weight loss journey, what it was like fleeing from war in Ukraine. He details what it was like to leave behind the area in which he grew up and potentially a controversial take on the war itself, and his perspective on some of the businesses he's run. Heading into this conversation, I wasn't expecting to have a 15-minute piece on the war in Ukraine, but it was incredibly fascinating, and I actually feel privileged to have sat down and spoken with him. It is a great episode, I'm sure you'll enjoy it, and welcome to the show, Andrew Artekha.
Quite frankly, I just started posting videos online about my body transformation, and it's about 10% of what I do throughout the day, because majority of the time what I do is just work. I'm probably more of a entrepreneur than a influencer or content creator. But yeah, I'm definitely trying to become content creator, if that even means anything.
You have to be winning offline to win online. So you have to have some kind of substance as to who you are and what you're doing for that to be reflected in content. And someone shouldn't wake up and aim to be a content creator or an influencer. That's just a natural byproduct of doing the work, which is quite a key theme within your videos. What is it that you actually do? What is your business?
I have a background in front end development. I've been basically developing sites, websites, since I was 15, I guess. I worked for about 3-4 years, and then me and my business partner, we were friends before that, and we started, a small venture. I left my country, and the business shrinked a lot, and now we're kind of trying to restore it to the previous numbers, which I doubt is going to happen anytime soon.
I guess that's like kind of the snapshot of who you are and what you do today, alongside posting the daily kind of body transformation videos all over the internet that you've been doing since the end of July. But a question I always ask in the podcast to really ground it in who the person is what were you like as a child? How would you describe yourself as a child?
One of the biggest reasons I started this body transformation, because I want my child to get an example from me. I wasn't shy, but I wasn't like a problem to my parents. Um, Interesting story about what was my first word. Children usually say mama or papa, which is mother and father. That's sort of a first word they come up with. My first word was kopeyka, which is a coin in Russian, a coin. And my parents were laughing, but I would say I was always very interested in leadership. I always tried to be a leader in any group I would come to. And yeah, I can't say that I was particularly interested in anything when I was a kid, but I was not money, but maybe some, resources. I was trying to gather it up.
What was your relationship like with your parents?
No, I think my parents are very good, especially my father, because he he used to drink a lot up until I was 5. He had serious problems with alcohol, but when I tell this to people, they always go like they face changes, but what they don't understand is that my biggest, um, I guess, insights from my father came from the time he used to drink, because I remember a few scenes when he used to drink. He stopped when I was 5, and I remember him and his friend. They would drink vodka. Obviously, vodka is most popular alcohol back in Ukraine. Um, and they would drink vodka, and his friend would fall on the ground, start acting strange. My father would never do that. He was always like a stone. If he knew that he need to get back to his family, he'd grab his friend, uh, get him to his apartment, wherever it is. He'd come back. They would argue with my mother for a little bit. He would stay silent. He'd go to bed, wake up, and I'd never even thought that he was drunk ever. He was more of a just calm, you know. Even when his father, my grandpa, when he used to drink, he would, fell on the ground. Like people in Ukraine and in Russia, they drink differently than to how people drink in Western world. So yeah, my father was always an example for me of a he'd never. I'm not even talking about beating my mother. The things like that never appeared. He was always very responsible. And at the age of 5, when I was 5, the doctor told him, "Look, you can keep it under control, but health-wise, you're gonna die if you're gonna keep drinking like within 1 year." And you know what's funny? He stopped in one day. In one day, he was like he was alcoholic. He talked to the doctor. Then he's not an alcoholic. Same thing happened with cigarettes. I was about, I guess, 12 or 13. He used to smoke a lot, like 2 3 packs a day. And I remember he went out to a balcony on a balcony to smoke. He was having a cigarette. Then he thought, I don't want to do that anymore. He squashed the pack, throw it away, never smoked again. This is kind of a man my father is, and it was always an example for me. Um, yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I can say about my father.
Mm.
That he I guess put a lot of a foundation in my character. That's for sure.
Do you think you can look to his behavior with drinking or with smoking and understand why in his life or in his environment he went to those things?
It was very normal for a guy, for a man to smoke and to drink,
Mhm.
because my father he he grown up before the Soviet Union fell off, and then when I was born, it was 90s, and 90s in post-Soviet Union country. My mother with a degree, she used to sell some. I don't know how you call them in English. The basically it's dough and meat, some food. She used
Okay.
to sell it on the market, and my father would try to work where he can. So it's like financially, it was pretty bad, and I guess. But again, my father never talked to me about depression. I doubt he knows that word exists. Depression, as well as his father. um it was just a part of the culture. Everyone smokes and everyone drinks. That's how it is. until they die, or until the doctor tells him that you have a problem with this organ, you need to stop. And then maybe they would stop, maybe not, maybe they just decide, okay, I have a 3 years more 3 more years, I'll go ahead and have fun, and then I'll die. That's basically.
Wow. Okay. So it's almost a collective cultural response. Could you see when you were growing up the change in his character, and are there any particular lessons that you can draw on from how his character changed maybe through letting go of those things?
No, no change. That's the beauty of my yeah, he just stopped. That's why no matter how bad I feel sometimes, when I remember myself of my father and of his decisions and how he reacted to the challenges, it was never like, oh, I need to do this, I need to find strength to perform, I need to find strength to quit alcohol or drink or cigarettes, I need to make more money. We never had those conversations, even though we became very close after I started working because I understood my father much more at this point. He's just a great example of what you now would call stoicism.
And so when you were growing up and coming into kind of teenagehood and growing into a man, was there anything in your life that you were able to recognize that you had an unhealthy relationship with?
I do make that connection, but that comes from my mother. She's very ambitious, and I picked up that from my mother. But in terms of food, she's not very disciplined. She also struggled a lot with overweight. She never went to be a beast like me, but she struggled with overweight. Um, but I started to gain weight when I started working because I guess a lot of stress, the job that I quite literally hated, um, and that was the only thing that I could escape to. I wanted to have some time with myself. I would order pizza, order maybe some sushi, and I would spend 2 3 hours at night just eating and just enjoying at least some time in a day.
When the pressures and stresses in the rest of their life get to a certain stage, the it requires a tremendous amount of discipline or kind of delaying gratification to not allow other areas of your life to kind of balance those things out. But what was it that allowed you to go on to kind of be entrepreneurial as opposed to just working the standard sort of 9 till 5 job?
It was a coincidence. My friend heard about some new sort of a way of making money, and we tried, and it worked. And then that's how I started. I wouldn't be probably. I guess at some point I would have my own business, but not as soon as 23. I guess I was 23 when he came to me and he said, "Well, here's this thing we can try it out and try making money out of it." Apart from that, you have to have some advantage over other people, because otherwise you wouldn't have a that called unfair advantage that would allow you to make money, because you have to understand something about business in general and profit. I have that theory about making money and actually making positive ROI. I think making profit is not natural, because if you think about um, the world and how people exchange their value, you can do you can exchange your value for money or your time for money, or you can pay other people to get you some value or their time, but it's going to keep you at some level always. And if you want to have more, you need to have some leverage, and that leverage is sometimes an unfair advantage that you have, like I had with this body transformation. I can talk about this a bit later.
Mhm.
That might be an information that you know and no one else know, or that might be a connections. Like a lot of politicians could use that, and even business people, if they have a connection. Let's say I have a manufacturer of meat, and you have that, but I know a guy from a government, and I can shut you down. That's my unfair advantage. That's how I'm gonna make profit. And I think business on on a big level is never about being good or being or having very good idea. To be frank, I think like big money and very serious business, it's all about the leverages you have and your positioning.
But would you say that's also a skill or something that you can become good at through being better able to communicate with people, knowing the right people to talk to, conducting yourself well, and obviously those things compound over time. And 3 years down the line, you might find yourself in a conversation with someone that then allows you to step into a new opportunity that you never would have got to if you hadn't have been proactive and networky for the previous 3 years. Even though for those whole 3 years, you never actually saw the tangible results of doing the networking. So I guess is it something you can also learn to be better at?
Yeah, definitely. Networking is very important, but also a lot of people, I think, because of the culture and entrepreneurship being very popular, I think a lot of things that are on the internet, they're a bit, polished. I think in reality, networking should be done in a bit different way than I think a younger people think of it. Because when you think of networking, you must think in terms of value exchange, right? And let's say you have something that you can share, but you definitely don't want to share that, right? You know how to make money in a certain niche. Why would you share it? Unless you're making a course of it and you're making money selling the course. But if you actually have that unfair advantage and that leverage, you wouldn't exchange that for 10 grand or even 100 grand if the business area is big enough. So if you're the guy who wants to know that information from other dude, you have to think from a perspective of I either trick him or I provide him something, some value that cannot be found anywhere else. So I also have that opportunity to leverage him of sharing this information. And quite frankly, when I used to network in the business of in affiliate marketing niche, it's never 100% honest. You're supposed to lie sometimes because I mean, when you have a niche that can make you $50,000 in profit per month, you're not going to share it with anyone. You're not going to give interviews. You're not going to tell that to your competitors. You're going to try to crush your competition. You're going to try to be as harsh on them as possible. And it's the reality of business.
How do you sit with when you're making these decisions and obviously like concept of lying or not telling the full truth? How does that make you feel uncomfortable?
Yeah, very, of course. And I think that's my as a for entrepreneur, it's a downside, I think, because if you go on the spectrum of a very good guy, never lies, never betrays anyone, always honest, and then you on the other side of the spectrum you have a complete psychopath who doesn't care about anything, 10 out of 10 times psychopath will have successful business and a good guy will lose everything within 6 months. That's just reality of the business. I'm not the best example in this because I've tried during my business years. I've tried to, help some people, help my employees sometimes, and that resulted in devastating consequences for my business. When was supposed to fire everyone and just, save money, I didn't do it. I lost a lot of money, and then I look at some people who don't care about their employees, who don't care about anything like that, and they are still in the business. They're good. They have big teams. Everything is fine for them. And then you
Mm.
think of it. Um, a lot of the advice on the internet is be nice to people, try to help, don't be afraid of to share information, all that sort of things. But then I've always looked up to that advice on the internet, but then I would look at the business, look at the what actually is going on in the business, how people operate, how people treat each other, and I understand it has nothing in common. It's bullshit. Like 90% of what I hear on the internet is bullshit. It's not how business done. If you want to know how business is done and how to get actually successful, talk to older guy. Talk to how business used to be when you didn't have the incentive to share it on the internet and to teach someone. And then you realize that you don't need to be bad to people in general, but you have to understand whenever the your interests come in play, you have to protect them, and you have to do everything in your power um, to not lose money, to be honest, because losing money is very easy. Whenever you have those networking opportunities, you might start some new project, you might start some new venture because you've got inspired by someone, when in reality 99% of the projects, they will fail. And the best thing you can do as an entrepreneur is to say no as much as possible, and to say yes whenever you have that unfair advantage, you have that leverage.
Do you think, based on what you're saying, there's any balance when it comes to um, integrating being disagreeable and being firm in what you want with being profit driven? Because ultimately, as you say, if you're too nice, you will get walked over by people who are just brutish and selfish. And I think that's quite a challenging dynamic, and that doesn't just obviously apply in the business world. That happens everywhere. That happens. And so, do you think there's any part of you which thinks that you can almost integrate the two and kind of be a balance of the middle, where you are really generous and productive, but when push comes to shove, you're also going to put your foot down on what you believe and what you want to do?
To answer your question, I think you can absolutely be a good person. It has nothing to do with being, you know, just a piece of shit. It's not about that. It's about, again, protecting your interests. And I think I come from another side of the spectrum. I come from a nice guy who's trying to become a psychopath
Yes.
to become successful, because it's very hard for me to fire people. It's very hard for me to shout on people, and sometimes you have to shout on your employees, and I'm quite literally saying shout on them, because they don't understand the words. They are professionals, but they're just that's just the way they can accept the feedback from you as the employer. Let's say you have a business and you have a project, and you have let's say a team of 3 people working on that project, and you deep down you know that that project might fail, and it probably will fail, but you still need to finish that project. And people working for you, they you cannot just tell them, hey, this project will probably fail. I'm probably gonna fire you, but let's continue. You can't dismotivate people like that. You must maybe not lie, but choose different words. And again, you see, it all comes to a little bit of hypocrisy. You're never actually honest about how things are in your business, even to your employees. So would I say that I'm a piece of shit? No, I don't think I'm a piece of shit, because I've done things that are definitely detrimental to me, but I didn't betray my people. And when the war started in Ukraine, I took the whole fucking team, and I've I've take them from the capital of Ukraine to another city, and I was paying for all of them, and I didn't really care about the money back then. Was it detrimental? Definitely, but I did it because Well, you can give it to my father and to my mother. That's how I was raised. And probably in order to be very successful, you have to be much less. What's the word? You have to care about people much less than I care about people.
How much information to share and with who. Not necessarily that you're lying or being a hypocrite, but that some conversations are unhelpful to have. And it's not necessarily being lying, but it's more so, it's good to be able to motivate those people and to do the right thing. And in the long run, however those things end up, will be for the best. I did want to move the conversation into, how firstly, how did the war disrupt you personally and also your business, and how did that change you, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. Oh man, where do I start? Well, I can share with you the whole story of since the war started and then up to the moment I left Ukraine. I can share
Hmm.
that story if you want to.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, so it's we're in Kiev. We live in the center. Um, it's February 23rd. Sorry, it's February 23rd, and I'm talking to my business partner and to one of the top managers of our company, and we're discussing possibilities of the war, and we think that's such a stupid thing to even imagine. Russia would never invade Ukraine. It's basically stupid. And we decide, okay, if that happens, we're gonna rent some little bus, and we're gonna get onto that and leave the Ukraine. That's it. That was the plan. So we go to our homes. I fall asleep. I remember distinctly. I was working up until maybe 3 a.m. I was testing some new theory in business. So I fell asleep. A few hours goes by, and when I fell asleep, I'm dead. You will not wake me up. And my wife tries to wake me up. She wakes me up. She goes, "The war started," and I go, What the fuck? What war?" And then as I'm saying this, I hear the fucking explosion. It's like it goes pretty harsh, and I stand up. And fun part of that is that my apartment was, if you look from the window, I was on the 10th floor, I guess. Yeah, if you look down from the window, you have a military district, or I don't know how to call it, the place where a lot of soldiers are.
Hmm.
And on the span of 30 minutes, we saw how, I don't want to lie, but maybe 30 BMPs were filled with soldiers, and they draw somewhere. So yeah, we knew it was serious because the explosions continued, and we decided to first of all contact all the family members, all of our employees, ask what's going on, who's up to what. And long story short, we come to our parents. We find vehicles to carry about 15 people from the Kiev, because Kiev, you have to remember, Kiev was is the capital of Ukraine, and um, the forces that were moving down from Belarus to Kiev,
Mm.
they wanted to capture the city in the circle, and then probably have some leverage over the Ukrainian presidents and other deputies. So we decided to leave Kiev, and we went. We didn't have the problem during the war, especially during the first few weeks, is that all the apartments and houses on the western part of the Ukraine, they were all filled up with refugees from all over the Ukraine, especially the parts where the war actually started and when the Russian forces were present. So we go to some shithole, to be honest, where the internet was not really present. And we spent about a few weeks there, and then we finally find a big house in Lviv. And Lviv is I would say, the biggest and largest city on the western part of the Ukraine. So we go there, and then we spend a good chunk of time there, and in the house, basically living with 12 to 13, maybe 15 people. Um, yeah, and then we decide to come back to Kiev, and then some other shit happens. Like they started Kiev at some, I guess, more than a year ago during the last summer. Kiev was one of the calm cities to live in because Russian forces they withdrawn from Kiev, from northern parts of
Hmm.
Kiev region, and the rockets weren't landing in Kiev because it was protected. But then, if I'm not mistaken, Ukrainian forces attacked Crimean bridge, and Russians they decided to attack back on the power infrastructure. So uh, we started to live in the reality when the lights would go off every day for about 4 to 8 hours. The rockets would land probably every day. The drones, well, all that shit. Plus, on top of that, the mobilization of the Ukrainian youth was coming to a very interesting numbers, and we knew that we have to leave. So we did. We
Do you
left.
mean they were mobilization, as in they were trying to recruit young people into the army?
Yeah, yeah. Young
Hmm.
people, not very young people, people from the streets, and we just knew that it's a question of time when we die in trenches. So me and my friend, we left the country.
How did it feel leaving everything behind, and how did that decision, and how does it still weigh on your mind?
It wasn't hard in terms of to decide it because we really wanted to leave the country since the war started, but we couldn't because okay, I don't want to your podcast to have any problems, but yeah, the fight for the democracy that our president claims to have, for me, it sounds funny to say the least.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay? I'm gonna leave it at that. Um, so yeah, we wanted to leave as far as as soon as the war started, but we couldn't, and then we found a way and we left. It was harder to my friend and much harder to my wife. But I want to answer this question so you could understand it in the best
Hmm.
possible way. So imagine, where do you live? Which country?
Uh, I live in the UK, so I live on the south coast of the UK.
Okay, got it. You live in the UK, and let's say you have two groups of the population. One speaks English, and one speaks, I don't know, let's say German, right? And let's say you speak German. The government language is English, and then Germany invades your country. You speak German, remember. Everyone who speaks German gets, well, you understand how it works. Now the German is the language of the enemy, and then you're not prohibited to speak it, but you definitely look down, especially from the people who speak English. Then on top of that, you add the a lot of Western help in terms of money goes places. You hear a lot of examples of people being grabbed on the streets and thrown as a fucking animal to the meat grinder, to very stupidly constructed battle plans. You see how stupid it all is. You see that you cannot really leave your apartment because you can be grabbed on the street. um, I'm not talking even about the business. You see all those things, and then you finally find the opportunity to leave. And I'm gonna ask you, how would you feel? You would definitely You definitely probably miss your country, the place you were born, but trust me, you're gonna have all those emotions after you left. Because before you left, you're praying to God, to whatever you can think of, that no one's gonna stop you on the border and send you to die in trenches. That's how you feel.
I think the more and more I've learned about history and the more and more I've learned about kind of geographical politics is that it's always far more complicated and nuanced than is portrayed in the media, especially. And I think it's thank you for sharing and for us being able to have this dialogue because I think, especially from a Western perspective, which is I'd imagine a lot of the people are going to be listening to this, you you can't fully trust the whole narrative that is spun. And I think understanding that it's far more complex and you're living within that circumstances, which is as a result of, post Soviet Union and all of the complexities there, it makes far more sense why you perhaps um, given those dynamics, it's not a difficult decision just to step away from it. And you can also just see the futility of war, can't you? You know, you're saying all it is you're going to be thrown into the meat grinder to just die in the trenches, and you don't have a particular affinity to stand up and fight because you recognise that actually it's pretty meaningless um, to just be a pawn in some big war game. Yeah, and I think people have recognised that for every war, and I think it almost takes integrity as well to not do that and to just stay firm on actually, there's no point to any of this.
Yeah,
Uh,
especially with the look before the before I left Ukraine, I
mhm.
went for on the shooting range. I really wanted to, not because of the war. I just always liked guns, and I wanted to learn how to shoot. And I remember I was practicing with the Glock, with the handgun, and then AR-15, basically a rifle. And the guy who was teaching me, uh, he went through war. He's been there for 2 months, and then he got injured. He came back. He came back and started teaching people to shoot. And we used to talk to him, uh, with him for hours after the shooting, what it's actually like there on actual front line. And you have to understand that the further the world progresses and the weaponry systems progress, the less an individual have the impact on the process. What it's now, it's basically two trench lines on opposite sides, two groups of people, and then they all get shelled and they die from things they didn't even see. That's how it is right now, and that's how it's gonna be later. It's landmines, it's artillery, it's bombs. It's not, people don't shoot each other that much. Of course they do, but the majority of the deaths are coming from artillery shells. You don't even see the cause of your death. That's what's scary. You're
Mhm.
just dying. That's what's, it's crazy. You can actually be very good shooter, very good soldier. You can know a lot about guns, and then you can simply die because some shell landed a few meters from you, next to you. That's
Mhm.
what's sad about the war, is that your life can actually be ended by a coincidence, and that's how it is.
Do you have any friends or contacts that have gone into the war?
Yep. Um, so we have that. I don't know if you heard of it. Uh, we used to have Azov Battalion, which
Okay.
some people could say it was a bit nationalistic.
Is it been like a reserve kind of private group that all come together?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. They used to be that. Now they are officially like a part of the
Hmm.
armed forces of Ukraine. And I have my classmate. He joined them in 2014, a very long time ago, and he died a few months into the war.
Wow.
He was, yeah, but he was. You have to understand. He wasn't just a soldier. He was a warrior. That's someone you would call a warrior. He wasn't afraid of death. He wasn't afraid to kill people. He was actually a warrior, and he died. And guess how he died? He died by a fucking shell. That's it. And I also have my um uh I don't know how to call it in English. Some brother-in-law, I guess.
Okay. Okay.
Um, yeah, and he's been injured a lot of times, and mainly he was never injured by a bullet. He has, I guess, 3 or 4 injuries. All of them came from shells, from artillery. So yeah, it's a hard thing to bear when you think of it.
Hmm. We all live quite sheltered lives, and then you've had this experience to appreciate what really matters and the fragility of life. And did has that brought your own personal struggles into context a little bit and propelled you to be able to start your body transformation journey?
Yeah, that's actually good question. It's not the examples of the people that made me change my mind. It's actually a thing that happened to me almost a year and a half ago. That's when I actually decided that at some time I'm gonna start this body transformation challenge. I'm gonna put it online, no matter how many views I get. I'm gonna put it online. I remember when we were in the western part of Ukraine. We used to live in the big house, and I that was the first and last time when I've actually seen the rocket lands, explodes, and feel. And when I actually saw it and felt it and heard it,
Wow.
because usually you just hear it, maybe you see it afterwards. You see like a big cloud of smoke. But then that time I saw how the rocket lands, explodes, and then I see. Heard the blast and saw the smoke and etc etc, and then I thought, if that rocket landed about a mile away from me, and I thought, I could die right now. I could die right now. I could literally, my life would have ended. And what do I have? I have some business I ran. I have some projects I did, and I died at the age of 20, what, 24, 25. Then I thought, if I'm gonna die, or if I can die at any moment, I'd rather start as soon as possible to do all the things I wanted. And yeah, it took me another 1.5 years to actually come to find strength in me to start this body transformation and to upload it online. But that was the pivotal moment when I actually stopped being afraid of what people think, all those things. That's what affected me the most.
There's a British podcaster called Chris Williamson who uses the term the region beta paradox, which is a concept which explains that if your workplace is a 10-minute walk away, then you'll do the 10-minute walk. But if it's a 20-minute walk away, you'll take a 5-minute car drive. And the idea is that for you to be pushed into action, it needs to be painful or far enough, and you need to bring those things into context. And I suppose that was that moment for you to actually flip the switch and recognize, okay, if I could die tomorrow, and kind of having that idea of the fragility of life, it pushes you. That was the step that pushed you into taking action, and beginning the transformation.
Yeah.
Um, so you said obviously it took a little bit of time between when you had that moment and then eventually getting around to it. Um, but you started the transformation on the 31st of July this year, or 31st of July 2023. Um, what was it like on that first day, or in your thoughts, picking up the camera, sitting down, recording, editing, posting? What were you feeling? What were you thinking?
Yeah, it all comes to, again, leverage. I
Hmm.
used to try. I tried doing some social media stuff a lot of times before, and I've tried body transformation a lot of times, but it never worked because first I didn't have. stamina to last for at least first 7 to 10 days to, at least get on track, start doing something, and see at least a few kilograms lost. That's what was one thing. Another thing is the format. Again, because I'm 26 and I have some life experience, I understood. Okay, I'm not native English speaker. My English sucks, and I'm also obese, so I can't really be, you know um, I can base my social media stuff on my appearance. But on the contrary, I have the format of under 1 minute where I could staff a lot of content and I can edit my voiceovers in the way that it doesn't really, you know, break the, it doesn't really show that I don't really know English. And also, because I have class three obesity, not many people actually do have the that much fat on them. They're not in that bad of a scenario. So I could also use it to my advantage. I could show the extreme version of obesity, and I could go down to a normal body shape, and that would be a journey. That would be interesting to watch. That's how I thought, and that's basically how I started. But in terms of finding strength for to pick up a camera, to stick to a diet, to start going to the gym, it's very interesting and important to understand that before I filmed day one, I spent about a month recording some random stuff. I would record how I vape. I would record how I brush my teeth. I would record how I eat, how I drive my car. I was just, teaching myself to be okay with filming my life. That's one thing. And another thing, before I started to post this body transformation, and I posted the day one, I I went to the gym for a few days to actually understand that, okay, will I will I stick to it? Will I go to the gym, or will I just stop after a few days as I always did? And then when I felt like, okay, I've been there 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, okay, I'm at least coming there. I'm not really working out. I'm just, walking on the treadmill, a few minutes on the heavy bag. That's it. When I knew that I'm gonna come to the gym, I was okay with starting it. And when I started my body transformation, I didn't really work out. I did some lifts, but it was like 5 minutes. Um, my diet was pretty bad. Like, I was first few days, I ate pretty much everything I wanted. So I guess the takeaway here might be start whenever you can. With don't try to do everything perfect. If you can stick to something, pick something that's the easiest for you to stick to. Let's say you enjoy tennis, you don't really like cardio, you hate lifting weights, and it's very hard for you to keep the diet. So out of those five things, if the tennis is the easiest one, just stick to tennis and actually feel good about yourself. Eat whatever you want, sleep how much you want. Don't care about anything. Just play tennis. Then you'll see that if you didn't have any physical activity beforehand, and then you started to play tennis, well, first of all, you're fulfilling your dream to play tennis, right? To just enjoy what you do. Um, and second of all, you'll see, if you didn't have any physical activity prior to that, even if you're in a caloric surplus, you'll still see that your weight will drop a little, at least the water weight. It will drop a little. And that would be your first, kind of a motivation point to continue to fix your diet, start maybe exercising, start sleeping better. And it goes like a snowball, but you have to start small.
It's like with this podcast. I started it recording it on a Google Meets call with my webcam without a microphone, didn't know how to ask the right questions. And here I am a year and a half later, and I had to follow the mentality of start now, figure it out along the way, and do the thing that I enjoy. And over time, with learning and with iteration, I suppose, especially doing a video in your case every single day you've got the accountability. You're learning how to do the videos better. You're learning new things about exercising. You're even discovering new hobbies. I think that the first thing you did, wasn't it, was buy some boxing equipment. And so, the way you use tennis there as an example, I think is really important, because if you're not going to enjoy it, it's not going to be sustainable. You don't have limitless willpower to just, like David Goggins, just smash yourself up against the wall every single day. That's just not going to work. You have to work with yourself and find what's going to work and just start. And I think actually, I guess this is something you've mentioned throughout your videos and does relate to the tennis example, is that if you pick a sport, then you're going to have an incentive beyond the number of the scale or what you look like to be better, because you just want to improve in that sport. And as long as that sport is, well, I like to say, if it's outside, if it gets you breathing and it's with other people, which is exactly what you're doing. I saw the other week that you just randomly knocked on the window of some boxers and just joined them for a bit of sparring. And so you're doing it with other people, you're getting out of breath, and obviously it's not outside, but you know, you're ticking those boxes, and that's what's going to allow you to want to change the other things in your life. Because we often talk about it. It's not the behavior modification itself, it's the affections of your heart. It's what you desire to do on the inside, and that will come out on the actions rather than focusing on the actions themselves. Therefore, if you fall in love with boxing and really want to be good at boxing, then naturally, as a response to that, you're going to want to sleep better, you're going to want to eat better, and all those things. And so, how has that changed for you over time as you've been making the videos and going along with the transformation?
Yeah, it definitely. Um, I would say my standards changed. So if before that I would I would go through 5,000 calories a day easily. I would eat 5,000 calories a day and feel like shit. So now if I have a even small snack, I feel bad about it. And I don't think like people keep saying to me, "Oh, you should find a nutritionist. The way you eat is wrong." But I think everyone who spent at least a month studying fitness, studying nutrition, it's more than enough for you to understand how pretty much everything works. It's caloric deficit, you lose weight; caloric surplus, you gain weight. You then have to understand the macros, and that's pretty much it. When people go, you have to find a nutritionist. I ask myself, okay, what nutritionist is going to tell me? He's going to tell me I need to stay in a caloric deficit. Oh, no shit. I know that. And then,
I mean, everyone's individual, aren't they? You got to find what works for you and what's going to be sustainable for you. Also, everyone's bodies respond differently to different balances of carbs, or of protein, of fat, or whatever, and you just got to figure those things out. And also, the internet is full, and you can see it in your comment sections. And it does frustrate me, of just unsolicited advice. Like, people always have advice. They're so quick to tell you what to do and tell you what you're doing is wrong. But
yeah.
ultimately, if what you're doing is working for you, sure, there are always ways in which you can improve, but ultimately, that's for you to journey and to figure out. And so, I do find it funny, because it's just classic internet. There's this person improving themselves and making videos. Oh, but you could be doing this, but you could be doing this, but you could be doing this. It's like, oh,
Yeah, but
you
that's
know.
important actually to understand. And if anyone was with the overweight problems would listen to it, my advice would be to
Hmm.
not listen to those people. Very important,
Hmm.
because it's not about the what you could be doing better. It's about whether you're doing it or you're not doing it. Because a
Hmm.
lot of people, they don't understand when they give their advice to me. They think that I don't know something. They think I don't know that one meal a day is not maybe a best way to go with your nutrition. They think I don't understand that substantial caloric deficit is not the best approach to lose weight. And they think that I don't understand that I need to build muscle. But what they don't really understand is that if I don't use 1 meal a day diet, they don't understand that my caloric intake, like normal caloric intake, what would make me feel, what would make me full, is not what it is for a normal person. I probably do have a eating disorder. I can, as I said, I can go through 5,000 calories and feel fine. I can actually eat a lot of food and feel pretty good, to be honest. And if you look at the spectrum of diets and approaches, I use intermittent fasting, or its extreme version, 1 meal a day, just because if I don't have any food, then I can control my hunger a bit more than if I'd say I'd have smaller portions throughout the day. Then I would definitely cheat every day. I would cheat every day, and people don't understand that. Also, it comes to building muscle, bodybuilding, like lifting weights. I hate lifting weights. You can, I guess, enjoy it, but if the question is you want to have a best physique of your life, and the question is what you do, boxing or lifting weights, of course you do lifting weights. Of course you lift weights. It's much better. It's gonna work on your muscles. It's gonna give you hypertrophy. But when the question is, do boxing and keep going, or start also doing, or start lifting weights and give up because you hate the process, then I pick the boxing because it's the only thing I can actually stick to. And that's what people don't understand. They think from optimization perspective. I think from a reality perspective. What's gonna make me last longer in this journey? Yeah.
I think speaking about optimization, people always want to look for the marginal edge. What's this? I'll take this little pill, or I'll do this little habit, or I'll wear these blue light blocking glasses, when actually just focus on just doing the fundamentals and what you enjoy, as opposed to every little thing that you could be doing that is unrealistic and unsustainable. I mean, I remember buying a pair of the blue light blocking glasses so I wouldn't see things at night, and I wore it for 2 nights and never wore them again. It's like, clearly it wasn't the behavior that was the problem, it was my heart and the fact that I didn't enjoy or care about it enough to want to do it. um, a a question I have for you is, um, obviously, the elephant in the room being that once you started posting, you, I mean, I find it absolutely insane because I remember seeing your page on maybe like 3 or 4 thousand followers when it came up on my recommended, like day two, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then I remember like checking back, and it had gone to like 20,000. I was like, what is going on? Like suddenly things are exploding. What was your reactions to all of that, and do you think that helped with the transformation?
Yeah, I'm gonna be a liar if I'm gonna say that it didn't help, because quite frankly, would someone last 135 days without seeing so many people watching them? I doubt it. I doubt I would continue if I had a few thousand subscribers or followers. And what happened is actually still a surprise to me. And some people think that I have some secret to the algorithm, or I've used some boost for the growth. I paid, maybe I purchased an ads, and it worked. But actually, what you have to understand is that it was more of a luck than anything else, because if you were to open the day one video right now, the editing sucks. My voiceover is pretty bad. The footages are not very interesting. The only thing maybe interesting to people is that I'm really obese, and that would be, I guess, my take on why it worked so well, because people resonated with it.
I think it's real. I think you mentioned the imperfections there, but that makes it real. And when people also blame the algorithm, or say, oh, it's just the algorithm is just people and whether people decide to watch it, like it, share it. So I think personally, and the reason why I followed it is like, oh wow, it's just this guy. He's coming across as a normal guy. It's just and it's well put together, but obviously it's rough around the edges. But that's what makes it enticing. Is like, oh, I could do this kind of mentality.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess that's why people resonate a lot with it. But again, you ask yourself, Well, it's maybe interesting to watch, but is it a 21 million views video? As my day one, it has 21 million views. I doubt it. It has probably something to do with maybe a algorithm picked it up, and then a lot of people shared it, and then it started to push all of my other videos because, quite frankly, body transformation is not that interesting of a content as something else. But I have my first like 8 videos; they all have millions of views, which is not natural for an Instagram account within like 9 days of posting. So yeah, and you can look at my YouTube Shorts channel and my TikTok, and then you see what I was supposed to get in terms of views, and it's thousands. It's thousands of views. It's few thousand per video. That's what I was supposed to get, but because of the algorithms on Instagram, um, I got lucky. Not gonna lie, I just got lucky, and because if you take the idea of my personality and that it might be interesting to many people, then why it didn't work on TikTok? Why it didn't work on YouTube? Because Instagram is a slightly different platform, and I think personality wise and like your journey and story, the best place to share it is on Instagram, because then you have reels, and then you have stories that you could share every day. And then Instagram is the only place where you can actually connect with your followers. You have DMs, you have all those, you have comment section, which is much better than on YouTube. And on YouTube you don't have DMs. On TikTok, DMs are quite frankly broken. They just, there's too much, and you don't really have the connection with any of the followers you have on TikTok. Instagram is the best place for you to share the
Mhm.
journey, and I think that's part of the reason it did work. But I must admit that I stole that format. It's not my original idea, and it's actually funny to look how a lot of people try to copy that approach when with subtitles, with captions, and quick editing, body transformation topic. They go day one, day two, day three, and they, some of them even like texted me and apologized for copying my content, and I said I don't own that format. It's fine, do that, but be aware that none of you is going to have even a fraction of attention I got, and not because you're not as good as me, but because I've filled that void. I had like, people now perceive me as a father of that format, which is not. I'm not a well. I'm not, definitely not a father of the format of body transformation. That's for sure. A lot of people did that years ago. But that particular format, when you have under a minute video, captions, quick editing, body transformation topic, all that, um, I guess that's where my creativity comes from, because I've saw, again, talking about unfair advantages and leverages you might have. I do speak Russian, and my audience doesn't speak Russian. And there is a guy from Russia, and he started his Instagram account as a guy who's quitting alcohol, and he uses pretty much the same format for his videos. It's under a minute video with captions, quick editing, trying to do some engaging story every day, sharing his journey as a diary. And then I thought, okay, I can take that approach. I can first make it in English, and second of all, I can make it to the broader audience, because losing weight is a problem for many, for more people than quitting alcohol. And alcohol is not my thing. And I thought about starting a journey on actually quitting cigarettes or vape. But then I thought, okay, how many people smoke or vape? It's not as many people as people who struggle with trying to lose weight.
And also, that was only a small part of it, that within a few weeks, you just stopped doing that anyway, and that wouldn't have made much of a story because there's you you can see the change in your face, between now and when you first started, and that's far more compelling for someone to watch than just, oh, I just don't vape anymore. Day 1,000 of still not vaping. Someone wouldn't watch that. So I
That would
understand
be
that.
stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And also,
Um,
yeah, the another very important part of that is visual change,
mhm.
because with body transformation, the visual change is what people are actually following for. They want to see how you visually change. They don't care about the number. I don't care about the number I posted, but quite frankly, what's the difference if you have, like, if you are 75 or you're 90 kilo? What's the difference if you look like shit? Right? So people are actually interested to see when I'm gonna get jacked. That's like the most important part. And the you can see majority of the support comments is how my face changed, how I become smaller, how I look. Like it all comes from visual side of things.
and I think that the visual, whether we like to admit it or not, is quite a compelling thing for ourselves to be inspired or motivated to make that similar sort of change. And speaking to that, kind of looking to other people, before we kind of wrap up, the question I wanted to ask was, um, how have you engaged with people messaging you in comments, and how have you felt about all of that? And then also people in your life, personally, your family, your friends, how have they um, reacted to all of this? And would do you think they would say that you've changed at all, or you're just still the same person but have 600,000 followers?
Yeah, honestly, I think people that are close to me, they don't really care about the following I got.
Hmm.
My wife, she doesn't really care. My friend, well, my friend cares only because we started to make the app. We started working on the app. That's the only thing he cares. Other than that, he doesn't really care about the social media stuff and all that. My parents, they didn't care about Instagram at all. What they care about is that I'm not gonna die because of my obesity. That's what they care about, and they are happy that I finally found strength to change, because I really needed to do that. It's not about the looks. Uh, at the weight I was at, it's about health, and it's a
Hmm.
question of whether you're gonna live or die. Because 130 kilograms at my height is I had class three obesity, and it's very dangerous, very dangerous. And my heart is already enlarged a little bit, and I also have some. I'm not even gonna attempt to say it in English. I
Sure,
hardly
sure.
can say it in Russian. So it has some stuff going on in my heart. Not serious, but the weight affected it a lot, and I had a lot of fat covering my covering my heart, covering my
Hmm.
internal organs. I saw it all on the X-ray, and that was the one of the scariest thing about my heart, because when the doctor told me that I'm gonna probably die before the age of 35, 40, because of how much fat I have circling around my wrapping my heart. That was the main issue with my health.
Given that all of this has happened, you've decided to, and I guess this is where you're balancing making the most of the leverage and also doing a good thing, because you've decided to craft an app to help people go along the kind of journey that you've been doing. Maybe could you tell us a little bit about that, and what that's going to look like, and when it's potentially coming?
Yeah, but before I talk about the app, I want
Hmm.
to explain a little bit about how making money on social media works, because you might look at my Instagram account and think, "Oh, this guy, he's making a lot of money because he has 500,000 people followed him." And obviously I do have good engagement on my videos, and I have good engagement on my story views. But you have to understand that I made, and I'm not lying right now, I made $0 so far. I didn't make any money on my Instagram, even though I started with millions of views, and now it's still hundreds of thousands of views. I didn't make any money, and the reason for this is because I could have picked on some sponsorships, some shady stuff, like crypto investments, some bullshit supplements, like some pills for brains. I had, I guess, about 30 to 50 offers, and I just couldn't take them. And if I'm being completely honest, I didn't take them not because I care about my audience. I don't know those people, right? Who followed me. I don't know about them. What I do care is my reputation. That's what I actually
The reputation
care
with
about.
yourself, internally, whether you have integrity, right?
Yeah, and that also, no, I'm not talking about, like, there's two types of selling out. First, you're selling out to something that you personally don't believe into, but that's fine. You can deal with that. Another thing is when you actually promote bullshit that doesn't work. Like I had, I wouldn't do that not because of my reputation, but I wouldn't do that because it fucking sucks. I had some company that they have some brain pills, and I've looked into it, and they had some bad reviews. I'm not going to mention their name. They're very small, thanks God, but like some shit like that, and also some I mean, just you can see that I haven't advertised anything because I didn't have an opportunity to work with actually interesting brands. I really, I'd like to be sponsored by someone, but um so far I've got zero interesting offers. And then regarding the app, we could have come up with some, 30-day workout at home, but we didn't want to do something that wouldn't actually help. So what we're working on now, we're working on launching an app that's gonna help you to, again, if you want to lose weight, you struggle not with the lack of information, but with lack of discipline,
Mhm.
right? So this app is focused. Obviously, the app is gonna have a lot of different workout plans, in the gym, at home, stretching, boxing, anything you can think of, just to burn some calories. And then the app is going to have a food tracker to track your calories, your macros. Again, in the easiest possible way. You just put some name of the food, and it comes up with the weight. You set it up, and then you have all the calories explained, and it's all tracks down the macros and caloric intake. And then we also worked a lot on the social factors and dopamine like triggers. We worked on challenges. We use AI for push-up challenges, plank challenges. So AI would track how many seconds you stayed in the plank. AI would track how many push-ups you've done, and all that combined with achievements. Then we'll have the functionality to compete with your friends, doing push-ups, doing all those different sort of things, and all that will help a person to stay on track. Because if you look at at my journey, I've got social media attention. Good. I'm gonna use it as a leverage to keep going. I've got support from my family members. Good. I'm gonna use it to keep going. If I didn't get a support from family members, I'd think to myself, okay, I'm gonna use it as a proving point to tell that they were wrong. So I'm gonna again use it to my advantage to keep going. And this app is built around all those principles. We're gonna single button, every single screen on this app is uh, directed towards not just information, but for you to not give up. That was the main idea of the app. We have plenty of information on the internet. What we lack of is discipline, and that's what we're working on this app.
And community and accountability and having everything in one place, because everything is so distance out. And I think knowing that we don't have the incredible willpower to be able to understand everything and have it all separately, having it all in one place and having a community of people to build each other up, and have the accountability that you've had from social media, as you said, is is ultimately the best solution. Do you have any idea of when that might be scheduled roughly to come out, just so people listening can look forward to it?
Yeah, the initial, I guess, first version of the app will come up in January, maybe February, and then we'll have a lot of updates because we have plans for, I guess, 18 month in the future to add some different features. But the initial launch will be at within a few months from now.
Fantastic. Well, um, I really appreciate you taking the time to explain your work through businesses, some of your perspectives on it, your childhood, and how that's kind of played in. And I appreciate your vulnerability as well when it comes to moving from Ukraine and how that's been difficult. But actually, that those things brought life into perspective, and that it allowed you to step into the journey where you're actually being very, very useful for everyone that kind of tunes in and follows you and can learn a lot and be inspired. I think that's really great that we've been able to have this conversation. Would you say today has been a good day, or is that still to come?
Uh, I hope no. Actually, after this podcast, uh, it actually helped me a lot. So I must say thank you.
Oh,
even
thank you.
even if if it doesn't get released, it felt quite like a therapy session.
Okay.
I feel much better right now,
Okay.
and I can honestly. I'm not lying to you.
Mhm.
It was one of the worst. I've woke up today to one of the worst mindsets I had since I started
Wow.
within like 4 months. I never felt like as bad as I felt today. So yeah, it helped me a lot. I can keep going right now. Thank you for this.
No, well, thank you, and I guess that's just the incredible nature of podcasting. It's just two people just having a conversation, getting to know each other, exploring stories, and hopefully, for anyone listening, this has been really, really interesting to listen to. I know it's going to be quite obvious, but if people want to get in touch, or if they want to follow you, or if they want to maybe contact you for business work, how can they do so? Where can they find you online?
Yeah, if you want to just get in touch with me, you can follow me on any of the social medias. Andrew Artecha. Basically, my last name is hard to replicate. It's very unique. So you'll find me on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube. But if you have some business inquiries, I would suggest you to go at Andrew Artecha Business, which is an Instagram account, and I'll try to respond to you as soon as possible.
Cool, and I'll of course leave all the links in all the videos and the media that goes out with this. But Andrew, thank you very much for your time and your honesty, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you, guys. Bye bye.